Hi, welcome to Channel Squared, where we connect with you, the divine, and channel here with you live. I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate.
And I'm Jodielynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness. And today we're talking all about the Mandela Effect. Woo!
Before we get into this, I think that we should say Merry Christmas to
Yeah.
everybody. And we know that that was just yesterday. So belated Merry Christmas. And special thank you to Marilyn for my lovely scarf that I'm wearing today.
Oh,
But yeah, let's get into this. What
yeah.
in the world, Jodielynn, is the Mandela Effect?
Okay. So the Mandela Effect, explained by different people, is, well, there's a couple of theories on it. One is that it's kind of like a ripple in time. Where there's a couple of different timelines, and we were on a different timeline, or the people who remember such event were on a different timeline, and then now there is a new timeline where said thing doesn't exist. Some people actually think that it's the government trying to hide things, but I don't know. I just recently heard of that secondary theory, so we're going to lean on the first one first, and maybe we can channel about that and ask. But a lot of people have been talking about different Mandela effects that they're experiencing. One really easy one off the bat. Any Disney fans in the room before they went woke? Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Do you remember at the beginning of a Disney movie, the classic Tinkerbell would fly around, and what would she do? She would,
She
yeah, she'd do the wand and the thing, and then it'd be like the eye on Disney or whatever would light up. It would be
right.
that magic. Yeah. Not in this timeline, Heather Marie. Not
What is
in,
it in this timeline?
she's not in there. She doesn't make the opening.
What?
No, she's not in the opening credits. No.
No, yeah, she flies around and then she goes over and she does her little thing and the it lights the eye and then the thing goes around, right? The whoosh sparkles go around.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It doesn't happen in this timeline. And there's many of us who remember this said thing just like you. Another one that is very common is the fruit of the loom. On their package, they used to have that brown cone thing, look kind of like a horn.
Cornucopia.
It's a cornucopia. Yep.
Yeah.
Does not exist. Not in this timeline.
Okay. So for the skeptics that are here, I have a question for them because I think that they're thinking this. Could it be a change in branding?
Or it could be a change in branding. But how much effort would a company go through to delete the past?
Oh, so this is like there's a deletion of the past too.
Right. Like
Like it
people
never existed.
like it never existed. Yeah. Richard Simmons. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is an iconic piece of Richard Simmons's wardrobe?
Well, he had the hair with the headband and the tiny shorts and the muscle shirt.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's how he is. Yeah.
Except there is no headband.
What?
Yeah, there is no headband. There is no
But he
headband.
was like it was like a sweatband, because he was like working out.
Yeah, and he had the indent in his curly hair and everything. Yeah,
Right.
no headband. No headband.
Oh, what in the world? That's so crazy.
It is the weirdest things. I think it is different timelines, or, a difference of some sort of timeline. And we can channel, we can ask this question. More so than a government intervention trying to cover things up from us. Because they're so random. Like, the reason it's called Mandela Effect is because there is a large population that believe, or that thought Mandela like Nelson Mandela, passed away a long time before he did. And then he didn't. But he's not, and this is where it started. And then I've given you other ones, but there is other people like Bob Barker just died again.
Yeah.
And
I think
like,
he's died like 2 or 3 times.
that's right. And people are
Yeah.
like, no, what are you talking about? That's not true. One that we were just talking about before we got on air, this is not about death, but about a movie, is Shazam. I remember that movie. I don't know that I ever watched it, but I remember seeing the cover. And what is the actor? I can't remember his name.
Shoot, what was his name? You continue talking. I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
So there's Shazam, and I remember like the VHS cover of like his getup as a genie and everything like that. We didn't really get to watch cool movies like that when I was a kid. So I don't remember that we actually watched it. We might have, but it's
I have the answer. Sinbad.
Sinbad.
It was Sinbad.
Sinbad. Yeah, it didn't happen. Didn't happen. And what's crazy is like I just sent a video to Heather earlier today that was talking about Sinbad playing Shazam. And Sinbad actually says, no, it never happened. It never happened. Never, there was never a movie that was made. That was a joke. He played an April Fool's joke saying like, oh, it's a government conspiracy or whatever. And they're trying to, you know, whatever, that was his April Fool's thing. But he swears that he never said it. But in this video, the kid, like the actor who plays the kid in that movie is like, I don't understand why people are saying they don't remember it. Like, I played the kid. I was there. And then they showed footage from the video of Sinbad playing the genie. Like, it's absolutely wild. And there's more and more things that are coming out every single day. Just timelines changing, converging. I don't really know what's happening. The other theory, like from people who are outside of the spiritual community, is that it's mass psychosis of a group of people.
Well, okay, so if it's mass psychosis that we are all imagining these things happening before that are never actually happened, I think it's odd that you and I remember those things happening, and I do not think that we are mass psychosis. Like,
No.
We are free thinkers that, I mean, we started Channel Squared because we were trying to bring about free thinking. You know what I mean? Like, that was one of the things that was really important to us, was to, get people thinking on their own, thinking about how stuff is and like what they see and what they experience and is it real, right? Like, that is like the foundation of what we do here on this show. And it's hilarious that there's some probably government agency saying that, oh, it's, mass psychosis of a bunch of people that think these things. And yet it's the ones that are like not drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever that are actually seeing the changes, right? Wow. I can see why people would think that it's like a government like conspiracy thing.
Right. What makes me lean towards a timeline or a portal or something like more on the spiritual side of things is what I'm going to tell you next. The Bernstein Bears. Bernstein Bears? Which do you recall?
I think I recall. Now, see, this was a little like after my time. So I was a little older when these characters came around. So they weren't like toys that I had or books that I had. I don't even remember. I feel like they were like books or movies or a toy or something,
books.
But
yeah.
Books. Okay. I want to say it was Berenstain Bears. Berenstein Bears. It's that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I think it's Steen, Stein.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Because there's no way that if in my childhood existence, that if it was called Berenstain, that we wouldn't have made fun of it. Like a bear staining? Like, come on. There's just no way
True.
at that age that it would have been able to be called Berenstain bears. Like, there's no way. It's Steen, Stin. But the interesting thing about this right now, in the timeline that we're in, it's Stain. And people are like, no, it was never Steen or Stein or whatever. But there was one video that I saw, and I want to talk about two videos, but there was one video that I saw that this guy was like, this is creepy. And he literally like walks into a room and he's holding the camera and then he's holding this book, Berenstain Bears or whatever, right? And it says Stain on the cover. Like you can see the cover clearly. He walks into the room and walks towards the closet and it turns into Steen or Stein, Berenstain.
What?
Yeah. And then he like walks back out of the room and it goes back to Stain and then walks back in the room. And he's like, somebody explain what's happening. Is there like a time portal or something in here? And to even take this a little bit further, people have taken out their old cell phones. They're really old cell phones, the ones that we had when cell phones were first invented, and are using their cameras. So the first iteration of the camera, and they're videotaping that. It says Berenstain, or there's many iterations of this, but Berenstain, and in front of them. And then they look through the face on the phone while it is videotaping and it changes the name.
We need to do this. This needs to be an experiment that we have. If you guys want to see us run some experiments on this Mandela effect with the cell phone, because that's something we could do. My dad has like a museum of old cell phones.
Yeah.
So, and they're like in amazing condition. Like you guys aren't even going to believe it. But if you guys want to see us run some of these experiments, say something, drop us a note in the chat, message us on Instagram, whatever, say definitely do the Mandela effect experiment, because I think that could be a really fun, I think that could be fun. We should totally do that. That's crazy.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Let's do
and we
that.
should ask our channels, you know, what is going on?
So what they're telling me is they're telling me that it's like a partially it's a compression. I'm asking like deja vu, you know, like when you have deja vu, it's sort of like you're crossing a time, like two timelines like come so close together that it's like, whoa, did that just happen, you know?
Yeah.
But they're talking about like a compression of the timeline. They're also talking about a change in the like the person making a change in their how they're viewing the current timeline. Like they're talking about like give me the words, please. So there's a bunch of different instances of timelines, right? And I'm going to go this way because this is how our linear brains think, right? So like there's all these different instances of timelines, and there's a character in every single timeline. And so here you are looking at the characters, and like you're in this character and you're like navigating life through the eyes of this character. And all of a sudden you went, "Ooh, I'm going to be with this character now." Like that's how they're sort of describing to me part of what's occurring. What are you getting?
Well, I got two things, and one had to do with time and like time shifting. And I didn't go deep into that, but I asked them if some of it, when I asked, is this like government orchestration or whatever, I got a yes and a no, that some of it is. And so I will dig into that. I asked, I feel kind of embarrassed asking this question. Does this have something to do with clones? There's part of that.
Clones.
Yeah.
Like clones, like the sheep clone or the people clone?
Like the people
Like,
clone.
oh,
People clone. Like
and
like
what they say.
there is they said yes. Like there is theories that certain people are clones. They look different. Joe Biden. Look at pictures of Joe Biden. Wow, we're
Oh
really
my gosh, right?
yeah,
So obvious that he is a clone. Like
right.
that is a total clone situation.
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But why? Like I could see some of the people that they were talking about, like Bob Barker or maybe even Nelson Mandela and like whatever, like potentially those being clones. Oh my God, correct. Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that one. Okay. But why, like, is it like cloning a box of cereal or a box of peanut butter, like Jiffy to Jif? That's also another one, by the way. It's not Jiffy peanut butter, it's Jif. It's never been Jiffy. I don't know. I don't believe that, but
No,
okay.
it's always been Jiffy.
Yeah. No, it's not. Not anymore. Not in this
You know
timeline.
what's the one that gets me is Captain Crunch.
Yes.
Like it's always been Captain Crunch, not
Yeah.
Captain. It's
No.
not Captain.
No.
It's Captain
Yeah.
with a T.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's so weird.
Very
Um,
strange.
okay. No. Okay. So they're saying no, they didn't clone boxes or anything like that, or Captain Crunch Dude. That's not there. Those are clones. But was some of these memories that we have of certain things, like certain movies or certain books or like certain logos, are some of those are they all timelines? No. Are some of them government like intervention or like some sort of manipulation from beings or entities that are here? Correct. Yes. Huh. Why would they care about the cornucopia on Fruit of the Loom? The first thing I got to see if you're paying attention,
Hmm.
to make you feel crazy and doubt.
That's
Uh,
exactly what I got was to make you feel crazy. It's almost like a selection process. Like the ones that remember the old, they're like those are the ones paying attention. I wonder if those are the ones that are the targets.
mm,
Because if the whole world is asleep, right, it makes it really easy for them to do whatever they want.
yeah.
Wow, this just took a very conspiracy theory kind of turn.
Yeah, we did not expect to go this direction with this conversation. Huh. That
Huh.
is fascinating. Okay. So some of it is not timelines, but some of it is. Huh. It's peculiar to me, like why, if it was a compression of time for the timeline side of things, why so many people would have made that singular jump. My guides are cheeky today. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, isn't that the point? Like, isn't
Mm-hmm.
that the great awakening, the great ascension?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess, yeah. So there is a collective that is literally jumping together. That's kind of cool.
It is cool. You know, it's really interesting too because it makes me like immediately like I want to like reach out to like my friends and family and ask them what they remember to see which timeline version of that person I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Because
Old or
if
new.
they don't if they don't remember it the way that you remember it,
Yeah.
are is the person that you knew all these years in the old timeline? If you made the jump and they didn't make the jump, and now you're in a new timeline with a different iteration of them, like, because it's all connected and it's all happening at once, they're going to remember who you are because you're in their life in all the timelines, right? And so, like, wow, this is just like blowing my mind. My brain is starting to break down at this moment about this.
So cute.
But like, doesn't it make you kind of wonder, like, who in my life has made this jump with me? Like, I want to send a poll out to all my family members and be like, when you think of Fruit of the Loom, what is the logo? Is it this or this? When you think of, the Crunch cereal, is it Captain or Capin? The movie Shazam, who was the lead actor? Was it this guy? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Wow. Oh my gosh, we definitely have to do the experiment with the cell phones.
100%.
This will be really fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just to check it out. We got to do some research.
Yeah.
This. Now,
and for those of you that are watching, you put in the comments what you remember. Like, how do you remember those company logos? Like, how do you remember Tinkerbell? How do you remember Fruit of the Loom? How do you remember Captain Crunch? How do you remember, Shazam? Like, tell us how you remember, and tell us any other Mandela effects that you think you've experienced. And if there's one that you want us to test with the cell phones, let us know. Like, get involved. Let's do it. So fun.
The other thing that just popped into my mind.
Yeah.
Total conspiracy, but I'm going there. We know that history isn't exactly adding up anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of different things about history that are being disclosed. We called this in the last episode, I think we were talking about the Great Disclosure. Mm-hmm. And some things that I've seen that just popped into my head were the world fairs that were held in the United States, and how they had power. They had like powered sidewalks, like shuttles that shuttled people around. Like, the buildings were insane. They like whitewashed all of them to say that they were brand new, but like, you look at pictures and it does not make sense. There was like 100,000 people there, or I don't know, 50,000 people there, and there's these like monstrosities, like giant buildings. Like, why? Like, that it's a dirt street with like horse and wagon. Like, how did they make that building? How? So the thing that popped in was, is this a tool for them to change history? And it is literally that subtle, that it's small things that add up over time.
Possible. I mean, when you look at how let's use the pandemic, because it's recent, right? Everyone remembers, I'm sure, unless we had this timeline jump after the pandemic, right? Like, which is possible. But when the pandemic was here, it was the same story everywhere you looked, right? All of the news channels were saying the same thing. All of the like actors were saying the same thing. Anybody who had a platform was saying the same thing. And it was like this like brainwashing event. And I found it really fascinating that it was so in your face, and how everybody just went along with it. Nobody asked any questions. I feel very fortunate to have a family that of free thinkers. My whole family's like that. I have a few family members that, you know, believe everything they see on the TV. But, in generally speaking, I have a very, large family full of free thinkers. They question the narrative all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all kind of sitting around going, what is this? What is this? Like, is this really happening? Like, is this real? And they took some form of data and manipulated it to make everybody believe certain things. And, they mechanized, a weapon, and people just believed it.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where they, you know, put something inside their body that they knew nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that as we were leading into, you remember back in the day when we were kids, they had this war against drugs campaign. I don't know. At least I remember it from my childhood. And it was always like, just say no to drugs, kids, right?
There's a song, drugs, 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 which are good, which are bad.
So it's interesting that everybody, at least in my generation, was raised on the just say no to drugs. And because some government agency said you should put this drug in your body, everybody said, yeah, okay. And I find that incredibly odd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what in the world happened there?
How did so many people just trust the government, just trust what the media was saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
How did we get so far down that road that we were just like, yes, they are correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Mandela Effect. It's a crazy idea. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
if you've been studying it for a while. I mean, we've talked about doing this episode for 6 months at least.
Yeah.
And I think that it's funny because, like, for me, it still blows my mind. Every time we talk about it, I'm like, what? No way, and it's like, but even though, like, I am aware of things, you're not paying attention to it, right? And so, like, sometimes you'll be like, hey, do you remember this thing? And I'll be like, oh yeah, it's like this. And you're like, yeah, not anymore. It's not, these people don't remember it. And I'm like, what? And so I think that I'm glad that we did this episode. I think this is really fun. And hopefully those of you that are watching will, engage with us and tell us what you want to see when we run our experiment. And if you want the experiment, because I think that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
I love experiments.
Absolutely. I love learning about the environment we're in and the Mandela effect. It just proves to me every time that I see it that things in our reality aren't as absolute as we perceive them to be. And for me, that feels so good, because if it's not absolute, that means we have the power to change it. We have the power to guide it and, manipulate it for the good and the betterment of the world and the collective and ourselves all at once. So,
yeah. I think, when we first started talking about Mandela effect, it was right around, I think it was maybe a little bit before Bob Barker died for like the third time, right?
yeah.
And I remember, Quinn and I were having dinner at a sushi restaurant that had TV. And as we were sitting there, I looked over and they were like, Bob Barker died today. And I was like, what? I'm like, no, he died in like 2017 or 2016 or something like that. I'm like, and I looked at Quinn, I'm like, do you remember? I said, didn't Bob Barker die already? And he's like, yeah. He says, I feel like he died when we first got together. He says, because you cried when he died. Because I mean, I grew up with him, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I used to come home and watch, watch his show like every single day. I freaking loved The Price is Right.
Yeah.
And so when, he was like, yeah, he says, you got really upset about that. And I'm like, yeah, I remember that. And I'm like, but and so when you go out on the internet, it'll tell you things of like, oh, yeah, no, he just was sick, or oh, he just fell down and he just was out of the public eye. And there's a lot of like song and dance around it,
Yeah. Questionable
trying to
thing.
make it not, yeah. And I actually found an article about him dying, like something they didn't scrub off the internet. I think I sent you a screenshot of it. I'm like, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in that moment, I was like, what's happening? This is crazy. Oh my gosh. So, yeah,
Oh,
fun.
I love it. So good. Yes. So we're going to do an experiment. Well, let us know if you want us to do the experiment and what you want us to do the experiment on, because I feel like the more that we can see, the more that we should explore.
Definitely.
Amazing. Well, thanks for watching. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.